Hello, this is Roger Bradshaw. In this session, we're going to cover team relay. In Race Director, there's two kinds of teams, standard teams and relay teams. These two types of teams are very different in how the setup is done, so it's important that you don't mix the two. Just briefly on standard teams, the setup is done under Taylor teams, and in this case, you see there's no setup done here. In this race, there's only going to be relay teams. Standard teams is similar to cross country, where everyone completes the entire race and you add up the scores to add up the everybody's result to determine the team's result. Team relay is much different. In a relay team, let's think of the most classic example, a triathlon, where one person does the swim, then exchanges to the next person that does the bike, and then there's an exchange to the last person that does the run. So every person does a segment of the course. A more obscure way of team relay, but it's similar, is if you ever have the situation where they want everyone to run the entire course but do it together, and whoever finishes first determines the score for the team. Even though it doesn't seem like team relay, that would actually be team relay as well, but that's a pretty obscure type of setup. So in this case, we are going to do an example of a triathlon where it's team relay, and we'll show how the setup is done. We'll import some participant data, getting participant data from a spreadsheet into relay teams, and we'll do some results processing, and finally look at some relay team reports. The team relay setup starts at the division level. So in this case, there are 4 divisions in this team: a junior and a senior open team, and then junior relay and senior relay. When there's categories of relay teams, it's always done at the division level. The most common ways of categorizing teams are by gender. So maybe it's male teams, female teams, or mixed teams, or age. In this case, it's age related, so junior teams and senior teams. Let's look at the setup of this relay team. This setting right here, this checkbox relay, team relay division, is what determines that this division number 3 is a team relay division. So that has to be set. And then the settings button is where you do the fine tuning. In this case, the maximum on a team is 3. Because the maximum required on all teams, the minimum becomes the maximum. So 3 and 3, minimum and maximum. Without the setting, you can create your own minimum number that would be on a team. But in this case, we want to make sure there's 3 on every team. A really important setting for team relay is how are you going to manage the bib number. 2 choices: either the bib number is the same for everyone on the relay team, in which case this setting would be checked. In the case of this race, they actually want separate relay or separate bib numbers for everyone on the relay team. There's a specific advantage of having this setting. If everyone has their own bib number, they'll also, in a chip scored system, have their own chip code. So when the results are processed, we will know exactly who crossed the result points, who on the relay team was actually crossing the result, the finish line or a result point. So, and that helps out on the reporting. So we will be able to know exactly who to associate with the swim, who crossed the T1 on the bike line, and who crossed the T2 in the finish line. This setting here is related to gender. In this case, we're allowing mixed gender teams. There's a setting for whether you want to enter address and email information. There's settings there. And rarely are age groups used in team relay. And in this case, there are no age group setups done. The most common setup for age groups, if you do want to do age group reporting, is average age. So if you have this setting on, the average age will be determined for each relay team, and you can set up age groupings accordingly. But in this case, we won't be using age groups. If you have a say in how the relay team divisions are set up, I believe it's better to use separate divisions if you need layering by ages. Okay, so that's all there is to the setup for these relay teams. So we'll now go to update participants. First thing I'd like you to notice is whenever you select a relay team division, the screen in update participants looks very different. On the top part of the screen is where you would put the information for the first relay team member, and then for relay team members two and up, you would put the participant data in a grid down here at the bottom of the screen. So as you see, we've got room for 3 relay team members because that's what our setup was. So one would go at the top and the other 2 would go down in this grid. We're going to import the relay team members from a spreadsheet. And in fact, it's this spreadsheet here. And it's there's a couple important rules for when you're importing relay teams. Rule number 1 is every participant must be in a separate row in the spreadsheet. Rule number 2 is all of the rows related to a single team in the spreadsheet must be consecutive. So you can't have one row here and another row later in the spreadsheet and another row at the bottom of the spreadsheet. They all must be consecutive. And the third and equally important rule is the column that you have set for the relay team name is what does the grouping. So obviously the case and everything is important here. It has to be exactly the same for every relay team member. As long as that's the case, these 3 people, and since it's a division that is a relay team division, obviously that's important too. So if those 3 things are the case, 4 including having the correct division number, these 3 people will end up on the same relay team. So let's make a note of this. We've got 3 bib numbers. 26 is Griffin. 45 is Kale. And 48 is Sebastian. Okay, so that's what the spreadsheet looks like. So let's go about importing that. This is actually a comma-separated text file, a CSV, and it is right here. Go to step 2. We do have a template for this. And I want to point out that if you look at the help on the import screen, there's a section here that goes over all of those things that I just mentioned about how the spreadsheet needs to be laid out. And that piece of help makes a really big point of this fact right here. The relay name column, it's important that you skip right by this mapping called team name and go way down to the bottom and find this one called relay team name. But since the other setting for just plain team name, that's for standard teams, and this is the setting for the column that would have the relay team name. Go to finish, and we build our import. And this actually gives you some stats that actually 107 race director scoring records got set up, and 10 of the, and there were 10 relay team participants that got set up as well. And if we look at the one that we're looking at in the spreadsheet, the lookup is done by entering the bib number for the first relay team. So that one was Griffin. And then 45 is Cale, and 48 is Sebastian. So we have our relay team set up, and here's the name of the relay team. There's some buttons here that will help you, like if you wanted to swap a couple of the participants from the top into the bottom, or the bottom, in here. But generally, since the bib number is going to help us with the scoring, this will work fine for the setup. Okay, we're going to switch to the same race, just another copy of it. This one actually has results to show you what that looks like. So let's look at the setup for this race. There's 3 timing points. There's 2 timing points in the transition area. And these 2 timing points will each have 2 occurrences for each participant. So, and there's a 10-second gap factor on these 2 timing points in the transition area. So as they come out of the swim and onto the bike, there'll be 2 reads for every participant. As they come in from the bike and out on the run, there's 2 reads there for each participant. And then there will be a single finish line. And for each, when I say for each participant, I mean also for each relay team, no matter which of the bib numbers does the crossing. If we look in Taylor division for the actual split or segment setup for one of these relay team divisions, we'll see that the swim is associated with the swim bike occurrence 1, T1 is associated with the swim bike occurrence 2, the bike is associated with the bike run timing point occurrence 1, T1 is associated with the bike 1 timing point occurrence 2, and the run is associated with the finish line. So let's go and look at the actual results. So let's look first at the swim bike. When you look up a relay team in a situation like this where you've got multiple bib numbers involved, it actually doesn't matter which bib number you type in. So I'll type in 26 here. And we've got 2 occurrences here. When we look at the first one, it was actually Sebastian that came out of the water. And let's look up 26 again. And we see that it's Cale that went out on the bike. If we switch to the bike run and look at, and just to show you, we can put any of the 3 bib numbers here. I'll try 45. And it actually was bib number 45 for the let's see, this would be going out on the run actually. And the bib number that shows in this column will always be the bib number associated with the relay team. So that's the primary bib number. And then if we look at, let's just look at 45 again. If we select this one, it's actually for Griffin, who actually had bib number 26. So that's the second occurrence. So that's going out on the run. And if we look at the finish, we should see number 26 at the finish too, obviously. And sure enough, we do. Griffin was the one that actually finished the race. So that's how the results work in Team Relay. And let's quickly look at the reports. So under Team Reports, you'll notice that there's 3 reports out here, all for Team Relay. The most popular one used for results is the overall results report. If we look at the junior relay and run this report, this setting triathlon with transitions, it would seem like we would use that, but in this case we're not going to. What that setting does is it just eliminates the transition times and shows you only the split, the segments 1, 3, and 5. Instead, we're going to run the report, and you get a question here. Is there a 1-to-1 relationship between the team members and splits or segments? In this case, yes, there is, and I'll show you what that means. What that's done is if we look at the team 26, we see that just as we saw in the when we're looking in the results, Sebastian came out of the swim, and it was Cale that went out on the bike, which is the T1 time, and came in on the bike, and it was Griffin that went out on the run and came in on the run. So there you have it, team relay from beginning to end.